questions that are being asked, I'd like to mostly address, so this is my preference, is questions that affect how you walk. Questions about living this out. What he's always told me is, tell them that if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they'll be where they're supposed to be. But you need a teacher to teach you what it is you need to be doing. All right, Craig.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
So I had a question, but first, if I can say something about the Psalms and the singing of various groups in the Psalms. I heard it once said that the Psalms are ours, that it doesn't matter who is singing them or when they're singing them. As long as it's just a psalm, then it's safe for all to consume. And that it's, it is part of the hymnal, but as long as it's just that psalm, that it's not added to, then it's still consumable for the body.
Yeah, no, and I don't disagree with that. What I'm simply saying is, when you consume something on a regular basis, all the other connecting environmental pieces are connected. Sure. So if you only sang that for years and years in a particular church, then you can't help but, in some ways, be back in that space. And that's what you want to be looking to be aware of. It doesn't necessarily happen all the time, but it can, and that's the thing that's the concern. The consuming the psalm, like I said, it's a psalm. It's in your book. It's fine. And they were meant to be sung. They were all written as songs. Okay, the Levitical ones were sung going up the stairs to the temple. Okay, the songs of ascent, and so those are all psalms. So absolutely, I agree with you 100%. They're all consumable, but if that one way in particular brings you to a place that you really don't want to go back to, then be aware that you may need to reposition that and make new connections with that psalm to something else. So it's not the psalm itself that's the problem. It's that where does it bring you, if anywhere? It may not bring you anywhere. Well, then that's fine. Maybe that psalm was never something that did that for you. But, I'm like right back in that junior high school we used to go and meet in on a Saturday and singing psalm, the first psalm. So, and that's like, no, I don't need to go back into that place. So I read the psalm without singing it in my head with the song. All right?
Secondly, you talk a lot about the father role that you've been put into, but there's more to the family part of Beth Shalom, more to the forgiveness, more to the, I was listening to a teaching of yours, and to quote you, the Torah is easy, it's life, that's hard. And what I get here is just really more compassion than hardness. Like maybe I just don't experience it, or maybe I'm from New York and it's not there for like that part. I don't need that, so it doesn't affect me the same way as the compassion, and there's love that's here. It's just that life is really hard, and it's hard for all of us, and I think maybe you could talk for a while about that.
Sure. All right. So here's what I would want to focus on out of that. All of you who are here, you came as you were. And when you came here, you already were terrible as a brother or a sister or a parent, you already were terrible at relationships. Okay, on some level. You had some friends maybe and some good relationships, but you had a lot of ones that weren't, and you had a lot of people in your life that weren't good at those relationships either. And then you come here and think that somehow that's going to fix right away. Because I've got some people come here going, well, nobody's really come up to me. Well, because they're all people. They haven't transitioned yet into being Yeshua, okay? And so to be successful here, you have to be more of an initiator. You have to go and place yourself where people are. I've watched people do fairly well by simply seeing a group of people standing around talking and just walking over and standing there. And next thing you know, they see you standing there for a couple of weeks in a row, and they start involving you in a conversation, inviting you different things. We go out to that after oneg deal where we go to like a second oneg and we go and eat again later at night. So come. Oh, but I'm tired. Well, then you're not going to get to have the relationship building that happens at those times. You might have to give up certain things. Okay, I'll give you something from the Level Up class that you're going to have, that all of you can have right now. Just a little nugget. Okay? When you're picking a target of something you want, something that you're not yet in your life, whatever it is, or relationships, or it's financially, or it's spiritually, whatever it is. One of the questions you have to ask is, what price am I willing to pay to have it? Okay? Because that's a reality that you will often skip. And then you wonder why you don't have it. Because it might mean, I'll take Rabbi Steve, for example. When he first moved here, this is a guy who gets up early in the morning and works early in the morning. But you know what? He would come at least for a little bit at night when we go out at night Saturday night, knowing full well he was going to start working 6 o'clock in the morning on Sunday to go work on somebody's kitchen or bathroom, whatever he's working on in his contractor work. But he would at least come for a little while just to try to have that social, family building, relationship building time. Even though it was not his preference or convenient time for him to be going out. But it's what price are you willing to pay? You can't just expect everybody else to come and do it for you. You have to. I've had people leave here and say, this is not a friendly place. I said, well, who did you go up to? I've watched you. Who did you hug? Nobody. Well, then what are you complaining about? All right? Look, let's go back to the color code for a minute, okay? And I'll kind of add an extra twist to it, because I also do a sort of my own little initiator responder thing. The white personality, I'm not talking about skin color here, right? The white personality type, which a lot of you have that either your first or your second color, is not going and actively putting yourselves out there. You're more by yourself, hoping people come to you, or even hoping they don't come to you, depending on how white you are, okay? You just leave me alone and you like to sit by yourself. But you don't have that outgoingness that you might get more with the blue or the yellow or the red. It's the least social color, okay? And so that could be affecting you. Plus, you got to realize the world is made up in two groups that I separate them in as initiators and responders. The responder group is, I don't know, 10 times bigger than the initiator group. I'm just picking a random number. I mean, there's so many more of you responders than initiators. So many more. And so, you know, my wife used to crack me up because she's friends with some responders, and she's a responder. And she'd say to me, I don't think so-and-so likes me anymore. I'm like, why not? Well, I haven't heard from her. I said, well, did you call her? No. She's probably thinking the same thing you are. I don't think Rebbetzin likes me anymore because she doesn't call me. Because you guys are both responders. So pick up the phone. Somebody has to initiate. So if you present yourself friendly, loving, compassionate, and all the other things that Craig was talking about, you will then find yourself receiving more of that. And so just put yourself out there, make yourself available. You know, you see a whole bunch of people going to do something, say, hey, is it okay if I join you? And then you say, and if they say, sure, then you sit down. You know, find some people you think you might fit in with and introduce yourself. By the way, the rest of you, especially you initiators, go find these people and invite them in. Don't be so shy about it. You see new people, and they've been here for weeks and they've not sat with you, or you're not interacting with them, go ask them if they'd like to join you a little bit and see if and sit with your group. And then if you're being invited, you don't have to participate much. Just sit there, and it's kind of like finding the rhythm of, like, I like to use the double Dutch. You guys remember that jump rope, double Dutch? You have to really find that timing or you get tangled up in the ropes, right? Well, social stuff is like double Dutch. There's a rhythm to it, and you can't just jump in without getting all tangled up and getting your feet all knocked over and you trip. You have to find that timing, and then you step in. And so you go and spend time, and it's okay if you're quiet. You're learning the group, you're learning their rhythm, you're learning maybe where you fit into it, and that's great. I mean, don't stalk them and just show up. Okay, ask them if it's okay to sit with them. Hey, would it be okay if I sat with you guys, you know? I'm new, just thought it'd be, you know, whatever. Because after all, we're supposed to be family, so we should be willing and happy to sit with everybody. We're not forming cliques here. Now, yes, we do have people that tend to, because they have whatever similarities and things that attract them to each other, so they sort of fit together well. They tend to group to some degree, but nobody should feel unwelcome. Now, you may realize when you go and sit with them that you really don't fit with them, you fit with a different group, and you need to move on. Okay? That's okay, too. Not everybody meshes well with everybody. We have different likes and tastes and personalities, and it just doesn't all fit in. Some of you want to be like best friends with me. You know you don't. because I don't think you'd be able to handle it. And I'm simply saying because I will rub you the wrong way and be all kinds of weird and different than you're not used to and very loud and everything else. But it's this thing that you have in your own head thinking what that might look like. All right? I have a best friend who talks to me very rarely, only sees me at feasts, and we do great. And I'm the initiator, so when I want to talk to him, I call him. And he's a responder, so he doesn't mind if that's months or weeks or whatever it is. And so that kind of works out well. I don't know how much we'd see each other or not if he lived here, because I'm busy and I do things and I don't have that blue level social relationship thing in me anyway. But you will find people you mesh with. Look, I met Uncle Bob, that's what we call him, my friend Bob. I met him 20-something years ago when he came to our first feast. I met a lot of guys and people in the last 20 years at feasts. Only one became a good friend of mine, okay? Because that's just the way that worked out. Now, I'm friendly with lots of people. And you could be friendly with lots of people. But are we going to build this into a family? And by the way, when I say family, remember, you've got family members that you don't talk to. You got family members that don't talk to you. You got family members that don't like you. You got family members you don't like. So you guys already are acting like a family. So you've already got that part down. We got to fix it a little bit, though. Okay? Because if you've got more than one brother or sister, there's at least one or two of you guys aren't talking to each other at different times. And having all kinds of issues at different times. And getting each other mad at different times. So we're already doing family the way we've always done family. We're supposed to elevate out of that. Okay? And not just do family the way the world does family. So I appreciate your point, Craig. All right, Chantel.
I'm a white. It feels like I've been standing here for ages.
That's because you have been standing there for ages.
Okay, I have
It could be worse. You could be a red standing there for ages.
Oh, yeah, good.
Because actually, that wouldn't have happened, though, because the red would have just walked away.
Yeah, I'm patient. Okay, I have two questions about pregnancy, which I am not, so just to clear anything up.
Your husband just went like this.
It would be like an immaculate conception.
There you go. I don't know, Billy.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Now you're in trouble because he's going to step up his game. You're in trouble now.
Not because of anything he's done.
He's going to make an executive decision.
I make those.
I know, but now he's going to.
Okay.
That's a very private joke. Okay. I got him. I finally got him. All day I hadn't got him, and I got him.
Okay. So one, I'm just going to kind of group them together so you can answer them. But one is, I know we've talked about, oh my gosh. Having abortions. Okay, they're a no-go. What happens if it's an ectopic pregnancy, which the baby is most likely to die anyways, but like if it doesn't, it could actually kill the mother?
All right. Health-related decisions are very different than emotional, social preference decisions. Okay? So that's something that's between a patient and the doctor and the family to decide what to do if something is going to be at risk to the mother. Okay? And also the likely, terrible things that could happen for the baby. So having an ectopic is a dangerous thing to have. Okay? So that's something that may have to be dealt with. So what we don't have permission to do is just say the baby's not convenient, or I just don't want to have this baby, or I really can't afford it, but I was too stupid to protect myself, or whatever, so I'm going to go get an abortion. That's not acceptable. Okay? But under life and death choices, sometimes people have to make a choice between them and the baby, but it has to be life and death choices. Okay? And it doesn't mean like immediate. It's like there's a high chance probability this could really, cause the mother's death as well as possibly. Then that's something you have to make a decision. You can get counsel from someone like me. Obviously, you're going to get your medical counsel from the doctors. But now we're talking about a very different thing than just abortion. Okay?
Okay. And then my second question is about basically it's like a a form of preserving the afterbirth, and like they can put it into pills or they can make it a liquid. Is there anything in Torah that says we cannot or that we should not or anything like that?
Look, I've heard all that. I think anybody that's studied any kind of birthing when they gave birth or they did anything, especially on the natural side of it, is they've talked about the high nutritional content and that kind of thing. I think it's a fairly disgusting, gross sort of concept, which I think most of you would agree, okay, no matter how valuable and healthy it might be in some way. So look, I don't see a scriptural problem with that necessarily. That's something between you and your husband. If you want to make your own decisions, you can counsel about it, I guess, and from the medical point. I have no idea how much of that's true or not true or what it's all about. I've not done the full research on it. My wife was not interested, okay? Okay, so it never became an issue for us. We knew about it, and she was like, no. Okay, so, but I don't see anything necessarily scripturally problematic with that. The baby is being encased in this incredibly high nutritional space while it's growing. And it's growing like faster than you grow at any other time in your life. Okay, so very powerful chemistry is going on there. Is it good to then take that as an adult or later or anything else? I don't know. I don't know what kind of research is really out there. It was meant for the baby. Okay, so now we're talking about taking something into you that was not meant for you. It was meant for the baby. It was meant for a baby that's growing in this incredible rate of growth. And so what may sound like a good idea may not even be that good an idea. I don't know enough about it, okay? But if you think about it, it wasn't meant for you. Your body threw it out, okay? Once the baby was born, it says, this is not needed anymore, and it comes out, okay? It doesn't get reabsorbed into your body. It gets exited from your body. And so we chose not to. That's just simply my answer there. Okay, Kathy.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you so much for zone meetings.
You're welcome.
Speaking of zone meetings, this is a halakhic question that I think, it was late, that you answered for Sister, I think it might have been a zone 3, she's in another state, regarding those of us who have been blessed with farm-raised, cage-free eggs. Okay. So in the past, I've heard you say that if you're having a hamburger and you have it medium and you cut it open, or a steak, that there's serosanguinous, there's serum and there are some blood cells there.
Sure.
In this particular zone, what I remember you saying was that, so you open a farm fresh egg and there's a spot, and I was interpreting that as cells not drinking blood or trying to do some fertility thing. So my question is that what you said, so that when I put the egg in the pan, and obviously there's a dot, that was potential fertilized egg, so am I breaking Torah, eating that egg?
Okay, that's a good question.
Thank you.
I don't have a good answer. Look, I know that in the Jewish community, they're going to break their eggs separately and they're going to throw out the ones that have those kind of things. I'm kind of weird about needing my eggs to not have any blemishes on them. I've always been that way. So if I see anything strange going on in the egg, I'm not using it. So it's more from the point of view that when I see something like that, it's not normally there. I don't know what it is and why it's there. So rather than define it as blood or cells or this or that, or maybe a potentially fertilized egg, I simply look at it going, that's not normally there. Most of the eggs I have don't have that problem, so this one can go right down the drain. I'm not going to worry about it, okay? Even though eggs are getting expensive, but still, you're talking about ones that you might even have people that are getting them, because they're growing them themselves, they're raising them themselves. But the thing is, halakhically, look, if you go to any restaurant and order eggs, you have no idea what they're doing with the eggs. Okay, they're just cracking them open and stirring them up, no matter what they look like. Okay, and so I don't think it's probably a Torah issue there specifically. But if you're looking at the egg and you see anything that's not what you normally see, then it's your choice what you do with it. I'm pretty picky about that kind of stuff. So if If I see anything that doesn't, even in the yolk, if I see something that looks a little weird in the yolk, I'm like, it's out. And my wife will be like, oh, you can eat that. No, that's me. That's just my thing, all right? You're welcome.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom.
Regarding Kathy's comment, I've never seen anything weird in my hard-boiled eggs.
There you go.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Right. That's because they're hard-boiled. Okay, and wait, let me just say this for Kathy. Kathy, one more thing. So when you're talking about, because you did make a comparison, when you're talking about when you cut open a steak, all right? I expect when I cut open a steak to find some red, some blood cells, some different, I expect certain things to be in the meat. When I crack open an egg, I'm not expecting to see that red dot there. Okay, so it's an oddity as opposed to an actual normalcy. And that's what stirs me more than anything else. Because when I cut open meat, I expect there to be certain things there, all right? So if I see anything in the meat that isn't there, I throw that out too. Okay, if I see something that looks a little odd with my meat, I'm not eating it either, right? So it's the thing is looking for something that shouldn't normally be there, so it's there, so what is it and why is it there?
I thought that that just meant that the local rooster got lucky to be with that person.
And it may be. I
mean, that hen.
Not
a person, a hen.
No, hold on. That may be, okay? That may be. I've not ever lived on a farm. I've never raised chickens. So when my only experience with the eggs is cracking them open and making them myself, right? So for me, I don't know what that is. It's not normally there, so I don't want it. So that's not even a halakhic thing. I'm just simply saying I crack eggs all the time. I eat lots of eggs. I like eggs. I eat them all the time. And I rarely find something like that. But when I do, it almost always happens when I'm making 4 or 5 of them to make something bigger for somebody. And then I put them all in the same bowl. And it's the 5th one that goes in there. I'm like, oh, that's the one that's now messing me up. Okay? But it's more from the point of view, it's not the expected thing that I'm expecting to be there.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, now back to Shira.
Thank you, Rabbi. I hope I'm not about to be the red spot in your egg. But I have one of those...
You must be yoking.
When I was living back in Christianity, and I used to hobnob with some Jewish people, just wanting to know more about what they believed and everything. And I was told that, I was, I am, and I will be, as we sang today in that wonderful song. They said, well, the way we translate it, the Hebrew actually says, I was, I am becoming. And the concept is that although Yahweh's character and nature are always the same, he actually is never ceasing to become greater and greater in some way. I have a hard time picturing Yahweh as being static. Just as I have a hard time picturing my eternity sitting on a cloud strumming a harp. That there's always somewhere further to go. Do you have any thoughts on that Yahweh himself may actually be ever expanding and becoming greater?
I don't think I've really ever thought about that very much. But the thing is, in the Hebrew, the point that he's trying to make, and that's why he then later refers to him simply as I am, is that he is existence itself, okay? And so giving the time frame of I was, I am, I will be, or whatever way you want to word it, I was, I am, I'm becoming, is just giving the idea that you can't go back before I was, I exist right now, and you can't go anywhere into the future that I won't already be, so to speak. So he's just kind of covering all basis. So you can interpret that in how you want to put it into English any way you want, but the point he was making was there's no time frame that affects the fact that I always was, I always am, and I always will be. Okay, now the idea of becoming, he's so outside of our realm of understanding what what development, growth, and anything else happens with him, who knows how that would work, especially when it doesn't have a time factor to it. So certainly those things are make some sort of sense that everything that exists, that he creates, grows, okay, and develops to whatever way you want to look at it. So certainly we can imagine that with him. We don't have anything that points to any of that, and we certainly doesn't have anything that points to anything limiting him either, which would also have the idea that he would be expanding and growing in some way.
I guess it's like what Shaul said of, we can't even conceive the things that he's planned for us. But, if I reach if I get it and get to the first resurrection, and there we are in the millennium and beyond, I just have a hard time thinking that I won't still be increasing in my knowledge of him. In other words, at least I will be able to continue to grow, even though
right. It certainly won't be an ending point.
Yeah, it won't be.
Right, and so therefore you think the same thing about him, which I think is totally fine and appropriate to think of him as constantly growing and expanding in some way. But even his starting point, where that expansion may be coming out of, is way beyond our ability to conceive. So conceiving more than that isn't any easier. Okay?
I get it. Well, I'm just thinking, I just want to make the comment that as I look forward to growing on and on and on, I can't imagine it will feel like it feels right now, but it hurts a lot. There's pain involved, and we learn to welcome the pain because we know the result and we trust him. But that at some point there won't be pain, but the growing will feel different.
Probably. I would agree, yes.
Okay.
I would agree.
Thank you for bearing with me.
Well, and the reason I say probably because at some point in life we recognize that not all pain is the same. Discomfort in different levels, some of it is stuff that you can look forward to. Some of it's stuff that you look, to avoid. I've talked a little bit about getting back to the gym, and having not really gone in a while, and then when I started going again, I know that I'm getting a little older here, so I took it a little lighter. But I also always said, even when I was younger, if I would wake up the next day and I didn't have any soreness, which is discomfort, I also knew I didn't do anything, okay, that challenged me in any way, right? So I started to look forward to, when I started doing a little bit harder workouts recently, and now the next day I'm like, ooh, okay. But then I'm like, good, that's proof that I did something. So not all pain is the same, right? So will we always have some level of pain? Pain is a good motivator. Discomfort is a motivator. So I'm sure there'll be things that we'll still find discomforting that will motivate us to do something to fix that, but it won't be exactly the same as how we deal with it now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. John?
Thank you, Rabbi. My question is basically on the road. It happened to me twice this week already, because I'm all balanced in the colors and everything. Now, when I'm driving down the road, you come across a funeral train in that. And I know the state said do not stop. If you can, pull over if you want to stop. How you affect that?
You came across what?
A funeral train.
A funeral train. Well, then if you can get out of the way, let them go by. What's there to do?
So I just didn't know.
That's the laws of the driving rules.
I just didn't know how it affect with our life.
Doesn't affect our life at all. I mean, somebody died, they're having a funeral, they're doing whatever they do in dealing with people when they pass. And out of respect, we allow them the space to go do what they're doing so that they don't lose track. That's why they're in like a train, so to speak, of the cars all follow each other, so that they don't have to have everybody have directions where they're going. They just all follow each other to the gravesite, wherever they're going. And so out of respect, we get out of the way and let them do what they're doing. Okay?
Okay, like I said, because of my well-rounded colors, I just wanted them clarified.
All right, I want to correct you on this well-rounded colors thing. Okay? There's no such thing. All right? I don't care if you're 25% of each. You are very blue in certain situations, very red in others, very white in others, and very yellow in others. Okay? you just don't have one that dominates in most situations. Like I'm so red that almost anything I'm doing, I'm going to be doing it in a sort of a red way, right? If I was more balanced in my colors, okay, so we've got our Shamish Kurt's very balanced in his colors, but he's probably very one way at work, one way at home, one way with it. So one of those colors still tends to dominate under the certain circumstances. In certain situations, you're going to still be more of something than something else because that's what you've learned to do in your life. That's where it is. Overall, in the full perspective of your whole life, you have a fairly balanced color spectrum there, okay? But don't think that means that makes you more balanced. I know some people that are pretty out of balance who have no real super dominant color, but in that area that I interact with them, they're very one way, okay? See, with me, it's a little easier for people to know because I'm going to pretty much always be one way because that's all I have is two colors anyway, all right? So you're just going to get a sarcastic red because that's what yellow reds are, sarcastic, right? So wise guy red, that's all you're going to get. But if I had some blue and white and et cetera, then in certain parts of my life, you would find me being very much white or blue more as that became my default behavior. So like you take somebody at work, I know some people at work, they're for some reason, they're much more red at work, they're much more blue at home or vice versa, right? Or they're much more this here and they're much more that there, even though they've got a fairly balanced, 25 to 30 or 20 to 30 range in their four colors. Okay, so they're all within a few points. So don't just say I'm balanced. No, you have all of them in an equal percentage, but you're still gonna need to find balance as they're stepping up and driving in different areas of your life, okay? Because sometimes the wrong one is driving and you need to fix that.
Okay, so how you tell which one is the right color going on at that time period?
Well, look, all of the personality stuff is about what drives you. So when you're in a situation, you got to ask yourself what's driving right now. Is what driving relational? Is it result oriented? Is it looking for peace and avoiding conflict? Is it just wanting to have fun? Okay, what's driving? Those are your four colors, right? And that's what you're going to be asking yourself. And then you have to say, is that the right driver to be having in this situation? Okay? If you're at work and your yellow is driving, you're going to be in trouble. Okay? All right, so you got to be aware. Also, if you're at work, depending on the type of job you have, you can't let the blue drive either necessarily because the blue could get offended and take things personal, think everything has to be a certain way. Or the blue could be exactly the color to have because it's going to make the details important and you're going to get all the things done and functionally you're going to accomplish your tasks in a certain nice, orderly sort of fashion. So it's just a matter of choosing which color makes the most sense in the situation so that you can accomplish it. So if you're smoothly accomplishing things, you're probably letting the right color drive. If you're struggling in any way, it's probably a color problem, or something wrong is driving. Okay, because when the right one's driving, things tend to go smoother in all situations. Okay? When you're dealing with a potential conflict, if you let the white get out there in front, you're going to avoid a lot of that conflict, as long as it doesn't go to the point where it's doing so much to avoid that it doesn't actually deal with the problem. It's the balance. Okay? All right, you're trying to, get a project done. Well, if you're supervising it, you need that red supervising. If you're actually doing the actual task, you need your blue getting the tasks done. So it's just a matter of what's going on. If you're having a good time with friends and everything else, and you shouldn't be thinking about what you have to do at your job or at your house. You should be thinking about having fun. Let the fun drive. Kind of a blue-yellow combination of social and relationship and fun. So really, just think of it that way, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I just want to straighten out because I know a lot of you think, well, I'm all balanced because I have all my equal colors. No. Look, I'm more easily understanding out of balance, and I'm missing colors. I mean, that's clearly out of balance, right? Okay. Now you thought we were having a zone meeting during praise time.
Yes, that's why I'm here.
Because I almost came out. You saw me open the door. Did. I'm thinking, those are for the zone meeting, but go ahead.
Shabbat shalom. Right?
Shabbat shalom.
Compound question.
Sure.
Can I drive on a toll road on Shabbat? And
I did hear your question.
And is there a difference if I have a Peach Pass that I put $50 on 6 months ago and it's just slowly taking it off? I'm not actually exchanging.
Yes, okay. I'm trying to remember. There must have been a zone meeting or something in the last few years where I've covered this before. So I know I've covered this before. All right, so the answer is this. All right, and it's not a simple black and white one necessarily. You should avoid all commerce, period, if you can. And I say if you can, meaning you have to then balance out, I can go to a service, but to go to that service, I have to go on a toll road. I had this problem in Orlando, because like you can't go anywhere without paying a toll in Orlando. It's terrible. All right? And where I lived was right on the other side of a toll. So as soon as I moved out of my neighborhood, every time I had to go through a stupid toll. Okay? So there was a service I could go to when we were in Orlando that was on the whole other side of town, but I had to go through 1 or 2 toll roads to get there. So I had a choice. I could go through a toll road or I could stay home. So you're trying to balance the commandment to be together and keep Shabbat versus, sitting at home. Now, of course, if you're on a vacation, there may or may not be a desirable place that you can go to keep Shabbat, but if there is an actual meeting space that doesn't require you to go through tolls to get there, you may just stay at the hotel or stay home, whatever you need to do. Because going to the park, I know you had a problem, and going to the beach, you had a problem. So, but you don't have to go and do any of those things.
We didn't have service where we were.
Okay, so then you had to go someplace where you had internet service. So now if that was the only place you could go was to go through a toll to get there, that would qualify. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? So it has to do with need. Now, let's get to the other half of the question. When you talk about Peach Pass and that kind of stuff, or Sun Pass, we don't want to be doing anything that the average person we're looking at as being active commerce, which is why you're not pulling up to the cash line and actively paying for the toll, all right? Because you don't actively pay your rent for your apartment today. You pay it for the whole month, okay? So you paid your Peach Pass for the whole, wherever you use it. Okay, so nobody's thinking you're doing active commerce at that moment. Again, this is not excusing you to just drive anywhere you want on toll roads on Saturday, but it has to do with if there's a need to get someplace, and the only way to do what you need to do is to go through a toll road, then yes, you can do that. But I would do it, if possible, using something like the pass, so you're not actively having to stop at a booth and pay them, okay? Does that make sense to everybody, hopefully? All right?
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Again, it has to do with need, though, okay? Now, if you say, well, I just really thought it'd be great to go do this at this public park. Well, what if you had another option that didn't require a toll road, but it wasn't the public park? Well, then you should do the option that doesn't require the toll road, okay? You just got to figure out what's the option that functionally works, it does the least amount of any of this type of stuff. But it's a balancing act. And again, everybody needs to listen to me. Need is not want, okay? It has to be a need. You need to keep Shabbat, and to do that, you need to be a part of a service. At least that's what she felt, and I agree with her. Well, if there's no service where you are, there's no internet service, you have to go someplace where there is. I get that. Then you can participate in the service. And if the only way to get there is through a toll road, then that's what it is. Does that make sense? All right, Chris.
Okay, so first, I understand that if you buy, let's say, meat or something, we were talking about the blood and whatever, that is not generally an issue because they get the blood out of it. Now, does that apply the same way to organ meats, like, say, liver, or is there like a special, more of a protocol for that?
No, look. The blood problem, okay, is living blood. They don't want you eating the meat that just got killed from the animal, and you're just going to eat that with the blood sort of just finish pumping in that animal, okay? All butchers, all manufacturers drain the blood out of the meat, okay? Because they want to make that meat as light as possible, so they're going to charge you by the pound, and so they can compete with everybody else, and they don't want extra weight in that thing, okay? Now, that being said, okay, we're not talking about the fresh kill, and you now are eating that animal and the blood in the meat. So we're talking about draining it out. So by the time you get your meat, organ meat or not, and you go ahead and cook it and prepare it and everything else, it's not breaking this commandment. There's no blood in there that would break this commandment, okay?
Okay, so when I get a little tub of liver, chicken livers, let's say, and it's like there's a liquid to the top, but that's not the same issue.
Well, the liquid to the top is just maintaining the condition of the meat. Look, just because you see red and liquid, look, I've seen nothing more wet, red, and liquidy than going and getting from a kosher butcher kosher meat. I don't know why that is, but boy, that's the bloodiest looking stuff you ever saw. But it's not the blood itself necessarily. It's part of that, but it's a lot of it's the other serum stuff that's in there that you get, okay? And so Don't let that confuse you. It's not the same thing. Okay, now I wouldn't be drinking whatever's in that container. Okay, it's being used to maintain the condition of the liver that you're eating. But just eat the meat and don't worry about it. All right, next.
They say the raw liver is even better because there's more vitamins or whatever, but yeah, I'd cook it. In Acts 8, I had a question about when Philip baptizes the Ethiopian.
Yeah.
And so when it says that he did that, in verse 38, and he commanded the chariot to stand still, and both Philip and the eunuch went down into the water, and he immersed him. And you teach that when you immerse someone, you are not the person who you immerse yourself. You're the person watching over the person who immerses themselves.
Right.
So why, in this case, is there any meaning why Philip would also go in the water while he was immersing the other person?
No, I mean, look, I'm just trying to help you understand it functionally. I'm not saying that people never went in the water, but functionally, the person whose job it is to watch over. Remember, this is a spontaneous thing. Philip happens to be going by. He sees this guy reading scripture, and he doesn't know what he's reading, that kind of thing, and all that stuff. Okay, so when you understand the historic, from an archaeological point of view, what a mikveh pool looked like and the position of a platform to watch over it. If you understand that John wasn't freezing to death going into the Jordan all day, baptizing hundreds of people and turning into a prune, okay, this is not the way that it was generally done. That didn't mean that somebody may not have gone in with you. Maybe he went in with them just to keep him safe. This is running waters, and he's going to be in there so in case something happened, he can grab the guy, going in this water. This is a stream or a creek, whatever it was that they went into, okay? And so there was water that was moving. So it may have been something to do that is loving and caring to be there in case something happens. I might do that if I'm taking you by myself where there's a place where there's no place for you to, to be. We generally go over here to, it's almost like it's as quiet as a lake could be, and so the waters are not moving and dangerous from that point of view. They're very quietly sitting there, and so they're not stagnant, they're just moving, but it's not that kind of a thing, so I don't feel the need to do that. But if we were doing this and it was more of a stream or a creek that was moving pretty good, and I know I'm certified as a lifeguard, I may go in there with you just to make sure you're okay. So hopefully that answered the question.
Yeah, because it says they were in the desert, in the wilderness, just out in the middle of nowhere before that in the verses prior.
Right, it says and they came to some water, so who knows what kind of water this was. I'm just saying it could be lots of reasons. Look, and if it also could be, look, it's the desert, it's hot, and he went in too. Okay? I mean, it doesn't say why he went in. I'm just telling you that, yes, you can find examples like this, but there are other examples you're going to find that where they absolutely didn't go in. Okay.
Okay, could I have one more question? Real quick. Okay. So sometimes during a service or a Torah study, I'm not saying talk have a conversation while service is going on, but maybe there'll be something that you say or something that I want to comment to the person sitting next to me, and I want to know is it still disrespectful if I say anything, or is it more like having a conversation and ignoring you is what the problem is?
I think it's a third thing. What's driving it? Okay, is it ego? Is it pride? What's driving your need to tell that person next to you something that you got from whatever I just said? They're listening to me, you're listening to me. So what's driving your need to comment?
I guess what I'm saying is when something it's not usually I'm explaining something to the other person, but it's more that was funny, and I say I don't know. It's just
Again,
a two-word
you
thing.
need to ask the question, why did you feel the need to comment? Because yes, the answer is it would be disrespectful. Nobody should be talking during the teaching. Okay? Even if you have an aha, have the aha, make a little note to yourself to tell your friend or your spouse later, whatever it is that's going on, but you're supposed to be respectfully just paying attention to the teaching, okay, with no conversation happening. But if you want to understand what's really the bigger problem is probably what may be underlying that. Why did you feel the need to comment? I don't know why. I'm not saying it was a terrible reason, but it just may have been a social reason or some other thing. But you felt the need to say something. So you may want to understand or analyze that a little bit, okay?
Yeah. Usually I justify it because I'm like, well, it's only a couple words or something. I say one word or 2 words, and I'm like,
Right.
you know.
Unless you're loud enough for me to hear you, I'm not going to care. So I'm not going to think it's terribly disrespectful. It doesn't make it not disrespectful, though. Okay, it could be distracting to the people around you. It could be distracting to the person you're talking to, who might be like, shut up, I'm listening. Why do you got to comment? Okay? And that's where I said some of it's ego and pride, because we think that the other person's going to get something out of what you're saying to them, when meanwhile they're trying to listen to the teacher. And so there may be a little bit of that driving in there, okay? So it takes away from the focus being on the teaching and the teacher and turns it now into a focus on you, at least for that few seconds, which is something you probably don't need to do. All right, but as far as from my point of view, as long as you're not doing anything that's distracting me from doing what I'm doing, I don't really care what you do. That's between you and you're messing each other up. And if you're not paying attention, only person losing out is you. Okay? All right. Because remember, I'm the one giving the teaching. I already know the information. So I'm not losing anything. But if you distract me and derail my line of thought or something because whatever you're doing actually gets my attention, that could affect the teaching. And we had that happen once or twice, and I've had to say, hey, I can see you back here or hear you back here, but mostly that doesn't happen. All right, Kathy?
Thank you for a second one. Rabbi, the reason I came back up is because many times, I believe, I've heard you say this, and I just want to make sure I'm clear with it. When you talked about, when Miss Shira was up here, when you talked about, okay, we're growing and we've now heard, well done, good and trustworthy servant. Enter into your master's rest. So now we're with Yeshua at the very least, if the Father. But you mentioned there would still be pain and suffering, and from, that, from what I have understood in the past, we're going to hear that we're going to be changed. We're going to have his mind. We're going to see him and know him as he is. Why are we going to need pain to do the right thing at that point?
Okay, so pain is not, at that point I don't think we're going to have physical pain if we're changed. It's just the emotional side of there's something that can be more, or something that can be fixed, or something that can be grown into. So it's that recognition of discomfort that makes you complacent and then ends up atrophying from there, that you're always growing because there's always this wanting and desiring to continue to go forward. And so not going forward is going to cause discomfort so that you will want to go forward. So it's more of that kind of thing than anything else. Look, the bottom line is, when you get to hear the words, well done, good and trustworthy servant, you know what it's like? It's like you just found out you graduated high school. Now you're ready to learn something. Now you got the basics down, and now I can work with you. So the work is just going to begin at that point. And you're still going to need something to motivate you, which pain is a motivator. Pain, not necessarily physical pain, but just not being satisfied and not getting complacent and wanting more of the right stuff. Look, you're driven because you want more of him, more of what he has. So it's the wanting more that drives you. If you get to the point where you don't want more, then there's no more drive. And so then you start, we're either growing or we're dying. I mean, it's one or the other, right? And so we're going to always be growing because we're always going to want more, because we're going to be able to see more possibility and more things that can be and more things we can accomplish and more things that we can, bring into existence and develop, etc. And so not doing should be still uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm not really referring to that. I'm referring to, we see him, we know him as we've been known, and our eyes are blown, and now we're experiencing, and our motivation is greater than it's ever been because we're with him to go forward. I've always wanted to be on that page.
No.
Okay.
No, we're not motivated because of that. We're motivated because now we can see what's the potential. We're not motivated, I'm with him, so I'm motivated now. No, we're motivated because now we really see what this could really be. Now we can see what we can really become. Now we can see, because now we'll see him as he is, 1 John, right? So that's what motivates us. Like, I had no idea. Because it says man has not even conceived of what's available, right? So we're going to see him. We're going to be motivated like, That's what we get to do? That's what we get to become? That's the potential? All right, let's go. Okay? It's still a Christianized idea that we're going to be motivated just by being with him. Okay? Right now, we're motivated to be with him. But then once they accomplish that, what's the motivation? Okay, so now we're with him. Yay.
But
It'll be a great moment. We'll be happy. But when our eyes are open, we'll see this is what he did all this for. This is the potential that we have. Now we get to really grow into that. Okay?
I understand that. I just thought we were going to be of the Elohim species.
We are.
So we wouldn't be.
We are, but we're going to be like whatever. Like, okay, it's kind of like when you were born and came out of the womb, you were a human being. But you couldn't do anything.
Right.
You couldn't take care of yourself. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't even move. Right? But you were of the species.
Okay.
So we will be that equivalent of an Elohim. We'll be this little newborn fledgling. Yes, we'll be of the Elohim stuff. Oh, you see, you didn't think of it that way. But we won't have any idea yet what we can do because we'll have this brand new ability. Like the baby doesn't, all of a sudden it's like, that's mine? As his hand is moving around. It's like, I can make that move? I mean, all these great discoveries we're going to make just like a little baby, but we're going to be a baby Elohim, not a baby human being.
Thank you so much for your
welcome.
patience.
No problem. Look, if people keep asking the questions, eventually I'll understand where we're going and I'll be able to get the answer for you. And so that works out that way. But is that exciting? Okay? Stop thinking, okay, Christianity has very sadly convinced you that the kingdom was an ending point. It was the goal. No, it's the beginning point. We're preparing to start. Okay? But you're not in a right mind, spirit, body, and everything else yet to actually start. That's what this journey is about. Then we get there, it's the beginning of all of whatever it is we don't even have the idea about because he hasn't been able to show us yet. That's exciting. All right, Brandy.
Good Shabbos, Rabbi.
Good Shabbos. She just became Ashkenaz. Conjunctive to you too.
I wanted to talk about feelings, emotions.
Sorry.
You and
song from the
Mercy and your
70s.
song connections. I love it.
Did you go there too? Okay, good.
I heard her. I'm here.
Yeah.
The staying vertically connected.
That song was #1 forever too. It was terrible. All right, go ahead.
Staying vertically connected on Shabbat with people who maybe don't have I'm not going to say don't have emotions, but he said it, you do it. What's the big deal? I don't have to feel anything. You know, you
Right.
didn't feel like going to work. You don't feel like doing a lot of things you have to do. You just get it done. So I understand the excitement, like you were just talking about with
Right.
Kathy. That's going to be exciting. I'm super excited when you teach something, you're like, oh, that was just downloaded, and you've given me something new that I now know he has me doing it, right?
Right.
You're not going to have that every day. You're not going to have that moment every day.
Right.
But just staying connected on Shabbat, you always stay vertically aware throughout the week. On Shabbat, and I get it, trying not to let your mind wander. But how would you, if you're not the person that's, how would you stay vertically connected if you're not super emotional?
All right, look, you are speaking from the red side, okay? Which I know, we've had these conversations, and we're both the same in a lot of ways when it comes to these kind of things. I don't have any idea what you guys are feeling during praise when you're up there like this and you're just, I'm not against it. I don't know what you're feeling, right? Because that's not me. I don't get, and you don't either, right? We're just not from that same, that's more of a blue thing. It's more where it's a relational thing and it's a feelings thing. So we have to understand that all of the different personality styles, no matter what way you do it, you can use anybody's test, it doesn't matter, have ways that work better or work differently in different situations. So for us, we have to recognize as a red, it's about understanding the logical result focus of the day, not what I feel about it. Okay, because I feel good knowing I'm doing what's right to do and it's functioning and it's what it's supposed to be. but I don't have an emotional driving side to it, right? Because that would be on the blue side if it was driving. And that's where you get into that relationship and you're feeling close. See, you guys are feeling close, I think. I don't know. I'm guessing it's like you feel close, you feel connected, and there's this joy. But just because you don't feel it doesn't mean that you're not doing it right. It's just that it's not you. It's not your color. It's not your personality, okay? And so, I've often wanted to go and tap someone's shoulder. Tell me, what is it? What is it? Because whatever you've got, I wish I had that, I guess. I don't know, what is it? Because I don't know that, right? But it's not because something's missing. It's just because I approach things differently.
So when it comes to that day, and so for me, it's a great time to sit down, take what you're saying, right, make the connections. But that's the same thing throughout the week. So I feel like maybe, feel. There's nothing different on Shabbat because it's goal-oriented focus where when I hear you say it's a time of rest, should it be a rest so that you're not thinking, even though I constantly want to make those connections throughout the week, even on Shabbat, where I feel like I'm on in that sense?
All right, so what you need to do is give yourself specific things that you do uniquely, more or differently on Shabbat. So either you do something, you don't do it all except on Shabbat, as far as certain ways you're studying or whatever you're doing, accomplishing something as a red, or you do more of it on Shabbat than you would do on other days, or you do it in some different way, right? So you're making it special and different because it's today as opposed to the other days, all right? Because I know a lot of you study all week long. So if I study on Shabbat, what's the difference? Okay, well, because on Shabbat you're not doing other things other than just doing Shabbat things. Where on another day, you may work, you go to job, you do things, other things, and you study. So it's the totality of the day is different. Plus you're here, you're not here all the rest of the days of the week. So this is a Shabbat thing. As a matter of fact, our Torah study now, and this is all Shabbat, right? Because it starts Friday night and we get everything still on the same day. And so what you have to do then is make choices. It's like when we talk about success training, we talk about having routines, right? And those routines help bring meaning to certain things and get certain things accomplished. Well, you should have a Shabbat routine. You know this is Shabbat, and this is what brings it more meaning. Because I do certain things with my husband on Shabbat that I don't do other days of the week. We have maybe a special meal, or we do something as far as what we, my wife will often like to take out a Bible movie and watch or something, so I'll sit with her and watch a Bible movie if we want to do that. Of course, those are always funny and frustrating because they're always so bad. But and lately we've been watching Chosen because that's the newest thing that's out to look at, right? And at least some of it's kind of all right in a lot of ways, okay? If they would just stop the name thing, it would make me less nuts. But because I start watching going, oh, this is good. Oh, there we go again, But those are things we only do. We could do it other days. But we do it just because that's a Shabbat thing, right? Okay. And I can't really compare me to the rest of you because I also do other things that I'm teaching and doing other things. This is a busy day for me versus a day of rest the way you guys get it. It's a little bit different, right? But you have to get the things that you normally do 6 days a week, you're not doing today. So take some of those things, make sure you're resting from them, you're not focused on them. It's all about this.
Okay. And then my second...
But you can do that in a red way, it'd be fine.
Okay. I feel better. The second question is, earlier you talked about those of us that don't have the connection when you pray and say Father. And I know at least 4 women that I know who don't have that. And so you're saying Father, okay, but we know him as the creator. I'm going to be obedient and he can zap us at any moment, right? Will you just give some examples of how we can fix that wiring, since that word might not mean anything?
Okay, so, all right. First of all, let me give you the freedom to use, different ways to refer to him. It may be simplest just to call him Yahweh, all right? Or just talking to the Creator in whatever ways you want to do it. Instead of saying, Father this or Father that. I mean, if Hebrew works better for you because it doesn't just saying Father, Father's a hard word for you, I say Avinu Malkeinu, like I say our Father, our King, okay? And so that would be, a way to at least deal with that part of it. Now, as far as how do you fix it, how do you adjust it, you really need to find some real good men in your life that you can look at in a fatherly way, a mentoring, protective, guidance sort of way, so that you can reestablish what that looks like. I mean, we read about what it looks like with him, but unless you actually experience it, which you do, but it's hard to always know it's him that you're experiencing, it's hard to reconnect that association. And so it really is important to maybe find a man in your life that can be safe and take care of you and allow you to grow and talk to you straight and all the other things that you need a father to do. He does all that too, but you don't always know it's coming from him and you don't feel it the same, especially when you have a disconnect to the concept of father, okay? So if you want to rebuild that, you might have to actually rebuild that, which is why I've got so many daughters. I don't say that in any laughing way. I mean, that is why I have a whole bunch of ladies that they need to have that rebuilt, okay? For some of them, they've had to go to the level of referring to their birth father by first name and me as father now, because it's the only way to disconnect that. And they recognize that the man who was part of their life was actually just a sperm donor. I hate to say it that way, but that's all they were. A lot of them didn't even spend that much time with them, and what time there was terrible. This is the person that you exist because they gave the sperm part. The role of father is not about giving the sperm, it's about the behavioral role, okay? It does not have to be the person that physically gave that part that added half the mix there to the egg, right? It's the role that comes afterwards. And so for these ladies, I would encourage them, and they can come talk to me and we can see what we could do. As a ministry, between myself and Elder and Rabbi Tom, we help a lot of the ladies learn that they can have men in their lives that they can trust and respect and who will not abuse them and neglect them and do whatever terrible things that have always happened to them. And they can start to rebuild that, okay? But I don't know any other way to do it, okay? Anyway, did that help? Okay, thank you, Brandy. Okay, Isaiah.
I had a question about kashrut, but quick comment about that is that, I had a massive father wound that mostly I was able to get through and get over. And there was a lot of good, redeemable things that I experienced from my father, but didn't really know how to apply it or put into action a lot of that stuff until I had been in this community here and had seen so many mature men that are following your example, being a father, not talking about it, but doing the things that a father does, providing a safe place to grow and be and all of that. So I'm really grateful because I've been able to not talk about or think about, but activate and do so much more. It took some motivation and some things going wrong because of past choices, but that's been so wonderful for me. So I'm really grateful for that. The Father's correction, because he set me straight on that.
Good. Let me throw in real quickly. There's a lot of men, at easily as much as with the women, that need this kind of stuff, but the ladies recognize they need it more than the men because it's built into them to need protection. I know some ladies go, I don't need protection. Yes, you do, okay? Because you need that safe place to grow and do the things that you do. That doesn't diminish you in any way. You were designed to need that. And so you when your father didn't do it, you went and sought it in all the wrong guys and went and sought it in all the wrong ways because you knew you needed it. Guys need it too. They're just not wired with their ego and pride is too high. So they're not wired to go and get it like they should. And so when I talk about this from the daughter's point of view so much, well, a lot of you guys, men need this too, because they did not have a father or a good father figure or any of that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't want the ladies to think it's all just about them. The guys need it too. The guys did not have any better, because some of you, when you grew up without the father, had a brother. He didn't have a father either. Okay? All of your brothers and sisters had the same problem you had, a father that was terrible. All right, so that means the men need it too. All right, go ahead.
Amen. Well, I hope this isn't the blood spot in the egg, but there's been a lot about that. And so I guess a question and a comment, and then I'm going to walk away. I guess I'll make the comment and then ask the question. There's been so much concern about this blood spot in the egg. Like, I don't like it either, and I would probably discard it also. But it seems to me that my observation has been, because also we need to tighten every area of our walk, every other area of the halakha. And that's another thing that you've given to me, right? But I've, in food, been very tight about that and tightening it up all the time. But we're so concerned about having blood in our food, whether it's kosher or not. You said in the heart of the matter that kashrut is about what is food and what is not food. That is the simplest way that you could put kosher, I think, into terms in this day and age where there's plastic and metal in our food.
Right.
So I think that we should be a lot more concerned about those things. That's my comment, is that we should be concerned about knowing what flavor enhancers are and metals and plastics in the food, whether or not a blood spot should be in our diet or not, because if we're going to be breaking Torah seriously. And the question is about donating blood, because I had somebody, I talked about donating blood, and somebody was like, no, you can't do that. That's not kashrut. You're breaking it because the commandment is that you should not drink blood. And I'm like, that's witchcraft. You're talking about witchcraft, not helping life. So I don't know. You
can donate blood. Yeah. All right, you can donate blood. And so understand that there's a very big difference between eating blood. And the eating blood thing also had to do with the superstition that you would gain the power and strength of the animal because you would eat living blood. They would literally punch a hole in the animal, take a cup or a goblet or something, a bowl, and get the blood right fresh from the animal and then drink it. Living, warm blood, okay? That's literally what the scriptures really wanting you not to do, okay, more than anything else. But Isaiah's comment about things that we eat a lot of stuff that we should not be going in our body. Okay, there's no doubt about it. And then it's funny because we will get obsessed about, well, there's L-cysteine in the bread. Good, you shouldn't eat that. But you know what? What about all the other junk that you're eating? Probably most of what's in that bread you shouldn't eat anyway. I mean, even the grains today that we eat aren't even like the grains that we should have been eating, and they're terrible for you. Okay? And so, I was watching, somebody you guys might know Dr. Gundry, and Gundry's a heart specialist and a health specialist. And he was talking about the great lie about oats. He's like, oats are terrible for you. And everybody thinks, oh, I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to eat oatmeal and oats. But who knew? I didn't know. I used to think it was the best thing in the world, and I would eat oatmeal all the time. But digestive-wise, not good. But how would you know? Well, you'd know if you actually cared to see whether or not what you're eating is actually good for you. Most of what goes wrong in your body is because you're missing things that you're not getting from your food, and you're putting things in that you shouldn't have in your food. So you can fix a lot of things with diet, okay? I was watching a TikTok, of all things, right? I do watch those. I get a lot of ones for health and a lot of ones for business that I just seem to be getting them now because it's one of those algorithms they have, which is good. And one of the things the guy was saying was, you need to understand that you got the whole diet and exercise thing wrong, okay? If you eat wrong and work out 5 days a week, you can still be in terrible shape. If you eat right and never go to the gym, you can lose weight and get in shape. Okay? Your diet is the most important piece of this, okay? And so people don't understand that. Look, when I lost the weight I lost, I did it not going to the gym. I just ate different. Okay, now I am starting to go to the gym. You know what I'm noticing? I'm putting some back on because now I'm getting a little bit of muscle. So now I got to readjust how I look at the scale because I'm looking better in the mirror, but the weight's not going down the way it was before. It's changing because I'm actually working out again. But the point is, the diet is the key. Now, we look at kashrut, don't eat this and you can eat that. It's got to go a lot further than that, okay? Some of you are actually more picky about what gas you put in your car. Well, I never put that brand in my car. It's junk. What do you eat? What do you drink? You sit there popping open a Diet Coke and drinking that? That's like straight toxic waste poison. But you'll drink it. Look, when they use something to clean the battery connections on my car, and it's something I'm also drinking, that's a bad idea. Okay, you take a Coke and they'll pour that and scrape, and it'll eat that stuff right off. All right, so it's going to take battery corrosion right off a battery, and I'm going to pour that in my body. Probably something wrong with that picture. All right, well, that's zone one for everybody.